Do you speak and your words seem to fall into a void? Do you try to assert yourself with your usual confidence, but feel your voice getting caught in your throat, as if an invisible force were holding it back? The world outside continues at the same frantic speed, but has your mind, your internal processor, already begun to stumble over its own ideas, to jumble its thoughts? If this resonates with you, take a deep breath. You are not losing your touch. Your confidence has not disappeared, and your clarity has not abandoned you. You are simply one of the first to feel the tide turning. You are feeling the retraction that precedes the roar. Welcome to the most subtle, most confusing, and perhaps most important phase of all, the pre-shadow period of Mercury Retrograde in the sign of Leo. Before the cosmic messenger officially begins its famous backward movement, it slows down, and its energetic shadow is cast over us. It is a testing period, a calibration, and the first system to be affected is our self-expression, our leonine roar. Our Leo soul, the part of us that longs to express itself with passion, creativity, and authority, still wants to get on stage and speak with conviction. But Mercury, the planet of communication, has already begun to pull the words inward, asking for an internal revision of the script. The result is this painful mismatch. It's wanting to speak and feeling an echo. It's wanting to convince and meeting resistance. It is the feeling of performing a play whose script you no longer believe to be true. Most people will only realize something is wrong when the retrograde officially begins and the communication chaos sets in, but not you. You who already feel this dissonance have a golden opportunity, an opportunity not to be caught by surprise, but to use this period of forced silence for one of the most important tasks of your journey, rewriting your voice. This guide is not about how to survive Mercury retrograde. It is about how to use the phase that precedes it for a profound recalibration of your truth. In the next few minutes, we will unravel the echo syndrome, understand why your pride might be feeling hurt, and most importantly, I will give you a practical and powerful ritual to transform this internal noise into sovereign clarity. The goal is not to learn to roar louder. It is to learn to roar with your true voice. To understand what to do, we first need to diagnose what we are feeling with precision. The phenomenon you are experiencing in this pre-retrograde phase has a name, and we will call it the echo syndrome. An echo, by its nature, is a sound that returns to you. But the echo we feel now is different. It is an empty echo. It is the sound of your own voice being cast out into the world, traveling through space and finding no surface to resonate with, ultimately getting lost in the vacuum. You speak, but nothing comes back. Think about the last few days. Think about the conversations you've had at work, with your partner, with your friends. You tried to express an idea, a need, a feeling, with your usual passion and clarity. And the reaction you got was a vacant stare, an unconvincing nod, or worse yet, a completely distorted interpretation of what you said. This isn't about a head-on disagreement, where the other person understands what you said, but simply doesn't agree. That would be a battle, a confrontation, something that Leo energy knows how to handle. The echo syndrome is much more subtle and maddening. It is the feeling that your message never even reached its destination. The result is a frustrating cycle of justification. You say one thing. The person in front of you understands something completely different. So, you try again, rephrasing the sentence, using analogies, simplifying your language, thinking, maybe I wasn't clear enough, and still, the misunderstanding persists. You spend an immense amount of energy trying to bridge a communication gap that feels like an abyss. At the end of these interactions, you don't feel angry, but rather exhausted, invisible, as if you were speaking a language no one else understands. This is the first effect of the Mercury Retrograde shadow. It creates static on the line and interference that distorts your transmission. This experience directly hits the core of the Leo archetype, which we all have in some area of our lives. Leo is the energy of the sun. Its nature is to radiate, to express, to shine. And just as the sun needs the planets to revolve around it to fulfill its purpose, Leo energy needs an audience. It needs to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. The applause, whether literal or metaphorical, is what confirms to a Leo that their light is being received. The echo syndrome is the equivalent of an actor delivering the monologue of their life on a magnificent stage to a completely empty and silent theater. This silence, this lack of resonance, is what begins to undermine leonine confidence. Leo's self-confidence is born from the certainty that its roar, its voice, its creativity, its passion has an impact on the world. When that roar echoes in the void, doubt begins to set in. The internal monologue changes from "my voice is powerful" to "have I lost my voice?" From "I am a leader" to "is anyone following me?" From "my ideas are brilliant" to "are my ideas even relevant?" It is crucial to understand that this is not a personal failure. You have not suddenly become a bad communicator. Your clarity has not evaporated. What is happening is a forced recalibration. Mercury, the planet of the mind, is asking you to stop focusing on the reception of your message out there and to start analyzing its origin in here. This discomfort, this frustration of not being understood, is not a problem. It is a symptom of a much deeper process that is beginning. Therefore, if you feel frustrated, misunderstood, and as if your voice has lost its power, breathe. Accept the diagnosis. You have the echo syndrome, and like any symptom, it is not here to punish you, but to guide you. It is pointing to a deeper question, not about your words, but about the intention behind them. It is inviting you to pause and question, for whom, after all, have you been roaring? The echo syndrome, that frustrating feeling of your words getting lost in the void, is not, in its essence, a problem of communication with others. It is a symptom of an imbalance in your communication with yourself. To understand why your voice seems to have no resonance out there, we need the courage to look at the stage from which you have been speaking in here. We need to talk about the nature of Leo's pride and the sacred invitation this pre-retrograde period is making to you. We all have a Leo energy in our constitution. It is our inner sun, our will to shine, to create, to lead, and to express ourselves in a unique and dramatic way. Leo gives us the gift of the stage. It is the force that impels us to share our talents, to inspire others with our passion, and to feel seen and celebrated for our unique contribution to the world. This need for recognition is not a flaw. It is an intrinsic part of solar energy. A sun that shines on nothing does not fulfill its purpose. However, along our journey, a subtle mechanism can set in. Out of fear of criticism, a need for acceptance, or simply by habit, we can begin to fall more in love with the performance than with the message. We start to notice that certain speeches, certain attitudes, certain masks generate more applause. And unconsciously, we begin to repeat these performances. We create memorized speeches, the persona of the professional who always has everything under control, that of the friend who is always strong and never needs help, that of the partner who is always understanding and never feels hurt. These are not necessarily lies, but they are edited versions of our truth. They are scripts we have written to guarantee the validation that our Leo ego so needs to feel safe and valued. And for a long time, these scripts work. The audience applauds. The echo that comes back is that of approval, and we feel good, until the shadow of Mercury Retrograde begins to set in. Think of this period as a technical rehearsal. Before the grand opening night, the cosmic sound director, Mercury, begins to do a sound check on your inner voice. And suddenly, it exposes all the areas where your voice is sounding false, not to others, but to yourself. The audience may not have noticed yet, but you, the actor on the stage, begin to feel the dissonance. The words leave your mouth. The same words that have always worked, but you no longer feel their truth. You feel that you are playing a role that no longer serves you. And the echo syndrome is the audible result of this internal dissonance. Since your voice no longer resonates with yourself, it loses the ability to resonate with others. This is where the Leo pride gets hurt. When our usual performance doesn't generate the expected reaction, our ego panics. The instinctive reaction is to try harder, to roar louder, to explain with more vehemence, to try to force the audience's applause. But as you may have already realized, this is the wrong strategy. Trying to shout the lines of a false script only amplifies the sound of the void. It only leaves you more exhausted and more disconnected from your own strength. That is why this experience, as uncomfortable as it may be, is a sacred invitation. The universe is not punishing you by taking away your voice. It is giving you a golden opportunity to truly find it. It is an invitation to temporarily dismantle the stage, to dismiss the audience for a moment, and to go into the silent backstage of your own soul. The question the pre-retrograde energy asks you is this: if there were no one to impress, no one to please, no one to fear, what would you say? What is the truth you need to admit, first and foremost, to yourself? What would your heart roar if it knew that the only being in the theater was you? This process of rewriting your inner monologue is the central task of this phase. It is about stripping away the persona to find the person, about abandoning the memorized speech to search for the authentic word, about trading the search for applause for the search for inner resonance. This is the calibration that needs to happen now, so that when the retrograde fully sets in, you are not caught in the chaos of external communication, but are instead anchored in a new and unshakable internal authority, the authority of one who speaks their own truth, first and foremost, to themselves. Now that you have dismantled the stage and retreated to the backstage of your soul, the real work of rewriting begins. And this work is not a purely intellectual process. It is not about thinking a new truth. It is about feeling it, practicing it, embodying it. The calibration of your inner voice requires a ritual, a sacred practice that will effectively rewire the way you communicate, first with yourself and then with the world. What follows are the two acts of this ritual of royal silence, designed specifically for this week's energy. Practice it with the seriousness of an alchemist working on their great work. The first act of the ritual is the vow of justificatory silence. Think about your daily life. How many times do you explain yourself? How many times do you justify your decisions, your feelings, your choices? I did this because of that. Zrenia, I feel this way because that other thing happened. Zrenia, I know it sounds strange, but the reason why each of these justifications, no matter how harmless it may seem, is a request for validation. It is an attempt to get the external world to approve of your internal world. It is your Leo energy asking the audience, please understand me, please agree with me, please tell me I am right. This habit drains our personal power making our internal certainty dependent on external approval. Your first task is to cut off this dependency. For a period of 12 consecutive hours, choose a workday if you have the courage, you will take a vow not to justify yourself. Note well, it is not a vow of total silence. You can and should speak, respond, converse, interact, but you are forbidden from explaining or justifying yourself. If a colleague questions a decision of yours, your response will be calm, brief, and final, without addendums. This was the decision that was made. Period. If a friend misunderstands you, you will take a deep breath and resist the almost unbearable urge to correct their perception. You will simply allow their interpretation to exist without your interference. During these 12 hours, you will observe the immense discomfort this creates within you. You will feel the urge to explain yourself bubbling up in your throat. This discomfort is your addiction to validation manifesting. Your only job is to observe it, feel it, and not act on it. This exercise will show you in a visceral way just how dependent you have become on the approval of others. And by resisting this impulse, you will begin to build a new psychic muscle, that of sovereign self-confidence, the certainty that does not need to be validated because it simply is. The second act of the ritual is the alchemy of shield phrases. After you have experienced justificatory silence, you are ready for the work of verbal alchemy. We all have shield phrases. They are the 3 or 4 sentences we use automatically to protect ourselves, to hide our vulnerability, and to keep our Leo armor polished and intact before others. They are the main lines of our memorized script. Their power lies in the fact that we say them without thinking. And that is what we are going to change. Take your paper and pen again. Reflect for a moment. With brutal honesty, identify your 3 most common shield phrases. Perhaps yours is "everything is fine," when, in reality, your inner world is in chaos. Perhaps it's "I can handle it all by myself," when deep down, you are desperate for support. Perhaps it's the classic "I don't care what other people think," when their opinion is destroying you on the inside. Or maybe it was nothing after you've made a Herculean effort. Whatever yours is, write it down. Identify your 3 main verbal armors. Now the transmutation. Next to each shield phrase, you will write your raw truth. The sentence your soul would scream if it weren't afraid of judgment. This is not a phrase to be said to others yet. It is a phrase to be admitted to yourself. "Everything is fine" might become "I am feeling overwhelmed and afraid of failing." "I can handle it all by myself" might become "I feel alone and would love to be able to share this burden." "I don't care what they think" might become "I get deeply hurt when I feel my worth isn't recognized." Look at the 2 columns. On one side, your shield. On the other, your truth. This exercise is not about judging yourself, but about creating awareness. By seeing the 2 sentences side by side, you begin to break the automatic response. You create a space between the impulse to protect yourself and the possibility of being authentic. This is the calibration. This is the beginning of the rewriting of your raw. The ritual has been delivered. The silence has been practiced. The truths have been written. The hardest work has already been done. Not in the external world, but on the silent stage of your soul. What you have experienced in the last few days, this frustrating echo syndrome, was not a failure in your communication power. It was a gift. It was a divine safety mechanism. A pause forced by the universe to stop you from continuing to use a voice that was no longer yours. It was a sacred calibration. You were invited to dismantle a persona, to drop a shield, so that you could finally hear yourself underneath all the noise of the performance. By practicing silence and rewriting your truths, You have initiated a process of deep alignment. You are teaching your soul that your certainty does not depend on external validation, and that your voice does not need an echo to be true. The roar that will come after this retraction will not be that of an actor seeking applause, but that of a sovereign declaring their space and their truth. It might be lower, calmer, less dramatic than your old voice, but its frequency will shake the foundations because it will be born from a place of unshakable authenticity. One word spoken from your inner truth has more power than 1,000 memorized speeches. If you have felt this message and are committed to honoring your own voice, anchor this intention now, like this video, as a sign of your commitment to your truth. To join others on this same calibration journey, comment with the affirmation, "My voice is mine." Share this guide with someone you feel is also struggling to be heard, and subscribe to continue strengthening your most authentic expression. When Mercury officially begins its retrograde motion, many will panic, feeling the chaos of external communication. But not you. You will be in a different place, anchored, centered, in possession of a new inner silence that is, in fact, your greatest strength. You will not fear misunderstandings because you are no longer desperately seeking to be understood. You seek, first and foremost, to be true to yourself. Today's silence is the strength of tomorrow's roar.